Hi there, this video is an exam paper walkthrough of the Eduqas GCSE Mathematics Foundation Tier Component 1 paper from summer 2022. This paper is worth 120 marks in total, and this is the first video of 6. It will focus on questions 1 to 5, which account for 21 of these marks. Eduqas Component 1 papers are non-calculator papers, so a calculator should not be used. A little disclaimer: there may be more than one way to answer a question. The methods shown in this video are not the only way some mathematical skills can be applied. Okay, let's get started. Question 1a. Calculate each of the following. So part 1 we're doing 3 multiplied by 400. I'm going to do 3 multiplied by 4, which is 12. And then the 400, the 2 zeros, is this multiplied by 100, which is 1,200. Part 2, 600 divided by 1,000. I'm going to write this as a fraction, and then I'm going to simplify. So I can divide top and bottom by 10. I can divide top and bottom by 10 again, which leaves me as 6 over 10. It doesn't tell me to write it as a fraction, decimal, etc. So I'm going to leave that as my answer. Part 3, 10 add 4 multiplied by 3. This is where you need to consider order of operations, guys. So you might have been taught BIDMAS or BODMAS, but I know from this one we've got addition and multiplication. Multiplication must come before addition. So I'm going to carry out that multiplication there first. So 4 multiplied by 3 is 12. So I'm actually doing 10 plus 12, which is 22. Next question, part 4, 6 subtract negative 7. Now they've put negative 7 in a bracket for here, which is very nice of them, but we need to recognise that double symbol. So we're subtracting a negative, so this double negative here becomes positive. So we're going to do 6 plus 7, which is 13. Part B. Part 1, we're going to write 11 over 25 as a percentage. Now, a percentage is out of 100. So I'm going to make my fraction have a denominator of 100. So I'm going to convert it to an equivalent fraction. Well, 100 divided by 25 is 4. So if I multiply this fraction by 4, the denominator becomes 100. I have to do the same to the numerator. 11 times 4 is 44. A percentage is out of 100, so it must be 44%. Part 2, write 87% as a decimal. So when we're writing a fraction as a decimal, we're going to divide by 100. Okay, so we're going to do 87 divided by 100. You can actually write that as 87 over 100 and recognise that that's 0.87 as a decimal. And then part C, write down the value of root 49, so the square root of 49. So the square root of 49 is 7, because 7 times 7 is 49, and 49 is that square number here. When we square root a square number, we get the number that we multiplied by itself to get that value. Question 2a, circle one term from the box that matches the probability shown by arrow A on the probability scale. So these are our words in our box. We have impossible, unlikely, an even chance, likely and certain. Okay, and then we've got our probability scale that goes from 0 to 1. This is our halfway point. So from 0 to 1, this would be 0.5. This is our even chance. Okay, so we're not going to select even chance there. 0 would be impossible. So it's not impossible, it's not an even chance. If it was unlikely, it would be between 0 and 0.5. It would be between impossible and even. So we're not going to circle that. So it's either likely or certain. Now, if something's certain to happen, that has a probability of 1. 100% definitely going to happen. A isn't here, so it must be likely. Part B. The diagram shows a fair spinner. So this is our spinner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible sections it can land on. Carol spins the spinner once. On the probability scale below, mark with an arrow the probability that Carol spins a number greater than 13. Okay, so let's see what our probability scale is sectioned into for equal parts. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts, which is handy because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections that have an equal chance of being landed on. So we want a number greater than 13. Well, there are no numbers greater than 13 on this spinner, so the probability that Carol spins a number greater than 13 is 0. It's impossible. It can't happen on that spinner. So part 2, an even number. So we're going to mark with an arrow the probability that Carol lands on an even number using this spinner. So we need to see how many even numbers we have. So 2 and 8. The rest of those numbers are odd. So 2 out of those 6 sections are even, okay? So we have a 2 out of 6 probability of it being even. Let's check our scale. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts. 2 of those for an even number, so 1, 2, so we're going to pop our arrow there. Question 3, circle the smallest value. So we have a mixture of fractions and decimals here, so we either want them all to be fractions with the same denominator to compare them, or we want them all to be decimals so we can compare them. I'm going to convert 1/2 and 3/4 to decimals, and then I'm going to compare those numbers. So 1/2 is 0.5, 3/4 is 0.75. So I'm going to compare, I want the smallest possible value. So I have 0.5, 0.35, 0.315, 0.75, and I have 0.6. Okay, so I'm going to make all of my numbers the same number of decimal places to start off with, because that makes it easier for us to compare these numbers, guys. So we're going to compare, we're looking for the smallest. So all of them have 0 in the ones, the units column. So we're next going to look at the tenths column. So we're going to look at this column here. So we're going to look for the lowest value in this column where there are 2 of them here, guys. We have 0.3 and 0.3 here. Okay, so we're going to work with those 2. So one of these 2 is the smallest. So we compared the ones, we compared the tenths, we're now going to compare the hundredths, okay? 5 is bigger than 1, so this number here has more hundredths than this one, so this one is bigger. So 0.315 is the smallest value. Part B, work out the following: 80 add 25% of 48 and then subtract 2/5 of 45. And we must show all of our working out. So what we need to do is evaluate these 2 things so that we can do that sum of adding to 80 and then subtracting. So 25% of 48. Well, 25% is 1/4. So I'm going to half 48, because that's 50%. So 48 divided by 2 is 24. And then if I half 50%, I get 25%. So that 24 divided by 2 is 12. So I've got 80 plus 12. I've just worked out that 25% of 48. And then I'm going to subtract, but I'm going to subtract 2/5 of 45, okay? So here I'm going to work out 2/5 of 45. So when I'm working out a fraction of amount, we split it, divide by the denominator, and then we multiply by the numerator. So 45 divided by 5 is 9. That 9 multiplied by the numerator is 2. So 9 multiplied by 2 is 18. So we are doing 80 plus 12, and then we're subtracting 18. 80 plus 12 is 92. So then we're doing 92 subtract 18. You can do this however you want to, guys. I'm going to do it in a column method. So 12 subtract 8 is 4. 8 subtract 1 is 7. So the value is 74. Question 4. Miss Watkins picks a team of 1 girl and 1 boy to take part in a competition. She chooses the team from these students. So we have our girls Poppy, Ruby, Sally and Zoe, and we have our boys Tariq and Will. So part A, complete the list to show the different options that Miss Watkins has. The first 2 have been completed for you. And it does tell us here we may not need all of these lines, so we don't have to worry about trying to fill it all if that doesn't happen naturally. So the first pairing they've done for us is Poppy for the girls, Tariq for the boys, and then Poppy for the girls and Will for the boys. So Poppy's been dealt with, so let's get rid of Poppy. We're now going to do the same combinations but for Ruby. So we could pick Ruby and then Tariq, or we could pick Ruby and then Will. So that's Ruby that's been dealt with. The next option is she could pick Sally with Tariq or Sally with Will, and that's Sally dealt with. And then she could pick Zoe with Tariq or Zoe with Will. So we've dealt with all the possible combinations with each of those girls and each of those boys. Part B. Miss Watkins is equally likely to choose any of the possible options. What is the probability that she chooses Sally and Tariq? So she's equally likely to choose any of these. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possible options of pairs. So we've got 8 in total, but we're only interested in those that choose Sally and Tariq. Well, that only happens once here, look. So that's 1 out of those 8 possible combinations is our probability. Question 5. So we have a grid and we have some points marked and lines drawn. So it says here the diagram shows part of a kite. So part of a kite, A, B, C, D, and we've already got A, B and C, just D that's missing. It's drawn on a 1 centimetre square grid. Part A asks us to write down the coordinates of point B. Okay, so the coordinates of point B, well, this is point B, and when we're reading coordinates, we do our X coordinate and then our Y coordinate. So point B is -2 on the X and then +5 on the Y. Okay, part B, A, B, C, D has 1 line of symmetry. The length of BD is 6 centimetres. Mark the position of point D on the grid and measure the length of CD. So we've got to mark where D is and measure the length of CD. So this is a kite. So D is going to be directly below B, but they tell us specifically it's 6 centimetres. Now this is a centimetre grid. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So D is here, look. And then if we complete the kite, just to be sure that it looks like a kite, I'm using a pen, guys. You guys need to use pencil just in case you need to rub something out so it's nice and clear for your examiner. So we've marked our position D, but they want us to measure the length of CD, which is the side that joins the points C and D together. So we're going to put our ruler on. We're going to start 0 at one of the points. So I'm going to start at C, and then I'm going to measure across. I get that at 4.9. So I'm going to put 4.9 centimetres. If you were doing this alongside me and you got slightly different, don't panic. There's usually a range that you can be within to get the correct marks for this question.